Hi, folks. Thanks for joining us for our webinar today on holiday lead forms. I'm just going to wait another 60 seconds or so just to give any latecomers an opportunity to join the room here. So just sit tight. We'll get started in just a minute here. All right, folks, thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Matt. I'm with the support team here at Triple Seat, and today we're going to talk about lead forms for holiday marketing. Now, as a note, microphones will be muted during this call, but we'd love to answer any questions that you have as they come up. So on your end, you should see a Q&A section where you can type your questions as we go. I've got a couple of teammates who are in the room with me here today. They'll be able to answer those questions for you as we go. Now, over the next 20 or 30 minutes or so, we're going to deep dive into how you can leverage your Triple Seat lead forms for holiday marketing. Of note, some of the settings we're going to adjust today may or may not be available to you based on your user role in Triple Seat. Some of these things may only be available to customer admins on the account as well. So if you don't have those permissions, you might not be able to make these adjustments. However, we still welcome you to stick around, bring this information back to your team. So you should all be able to see my Triple Seat dashboard. So let's dive in. Now, the first thing we're going to do is to create a new lead source. Now, the reason we're creating a lead source is that it's going to allow us to better report on the leads generated through this campaign. We're going to take a look at those reports later, but for the meantime, we're going to click into Settings and then Preferences. Now, as I mentioned, you may or may not have access to this screen. If you do have access to the Preferences page, just keep in mind that any changes made here will affect all locations within your group. So changes made here will affect other locations. Just something to keep in the back of your head anytime we're on this page. So once we're on the Preferences page, let's click on the drop-downs tab. Now here's where you can adjust the responses and drop-downs across Triple Seat. But the one we're most focused on today is going to be lead sources. So let's click here. So here we can see all of our lead sources. Right here, this is a great example. This is the lead source I created for my Oktoberfest holiday lead form campaign. But we're going to add a new one. So let's add one that says Holiday Campaign 2023. So you're just going to want to click Add Another, type in the name, and update. Now we see we've got that brand new lead source. Now the next step is going to be to create our lead form. This is a page that probably most people are familiar with, but we're going to click into Settings, Lead Forms. So here we can see our existing lead forms. Once again, there's that Oktoberfest lead form that I was referring to earlier. If your venue uses booking lead forms as opposed to event lead forms, you'll see your forms on this Bookings tab here. For today's purposes, we're going to focus on event lead forms. So we're going to create a new one. To do so, we're going to use the new event lead form button right here. First things first, we're going to want to give this new form a name. So I'm going to go with the same name that I gave my lead source, Holiday Campaign 2023. Now, if you have more than one location within your group, you may want to select which location or locations this lead form is going to be used at. So to do that, you'll check the locations off here. We're going to use this at my Tiki Bar location. Now, if you're planning on using the triple seat hosted version of the lead form, as opposed to the embedded form that lives on your venue's website, you may want to override the logo, the banner, some of the colors here. This is really going to help us customize a lot of the branding that we're going to see on this lead form. So for example, I'm going to go ahead and upload a holiday logo that I've created and a banner with kind of a snowy scape. Adds to the winter festive vibes. Once again, you can override the colors here as well. So for example, you can give it kind of a wintry blue background. Just to add to the branding. If you do know the hex codes for the specific colors that your company uses in their branding, you can also just enter those right here as well. We'll move on from there. Now we get down to this page setup portion. And while we're here, I'm going to note that all of these fields are not specific to a holiday lead form. Obviously, they're here all the time. And we do have the ability to edit these at all the time. So while we're going through this, maybe think about some other things you can do to your existing lead forms to make them fit your company's voice and branding a little bit better. Really some great updates you can make here to help with that. So right here at the top, we've got our text or HTML to be displayed at the top of the page. So I'm just going to add quick little sentence here. All right. I'm going to give that a little bit of bold and italicized here. And I'm also going to note there's an option here to add a link. That's going to be great if you want to link to a specific holiday menu. Maybe your bar program put together a fantastic seasonal drink menu. You want to link to that to try to entice people to host their event with you. That'd be a great place to add that link. We've also got the header text here, which currently just says event request. Let's update that as well. Next, we have our event description and then the event examples. These are going to be the examples of this description. We can take a look at that when we see the live page. I'll show you exactly what I mean there. However, we know that birthday party, business dinner, these might not accurately describe what we're talking about for this particular lead form, but we might be wanting to find out more about whether this is a corporate event or perhaps a social event. And we also have the additional information field. This is the field that lives in the bottom of every lead form. And this text here, completely customizable. So we're going to leave it the way it is now, but really you can update this to collect whatever information you want within that field. Just got to ask specifically what you'd like the guest to put in that right there. And then let's update this field as well. And then finally, the message should be displayed after filling out the forms. This is what our guest is going to see when they're done. Maybe we want to get back to them faster than 24 hours, or maybe we know that we're not going to get back to them in 24 hours. We can update that text. All of this can be updated right here. Now scrolling down to the next section, our form fields. This is where we can check off certain boxes to require a date, for example, or a guest count. Displaying the opt-in option, we're going to do that. We want to give our guests the option to opt in to our mass emails. But here we come to the most important field for this purpose. That's our lead source field. So what we're going to do here is we're going to select our holiday campaign 2023 lead form that we just created. So now we know that every lead that comes in through this lead form is going to be assigned this holiday campaign 2023 lead form. That's super important. We'll get into more of that later, but definitely the linchpin of a successful holiday lead form campaign. Then coming down here, I like to update this availability information box here. This is a great place to put your available hours. You don't want guests to be requesting a date or time that is outside of your open hours, but also the hours that you're hosting a particular event, in this case, where we're doing a specific holiday menu. So I'm going to update this to say that events hosted between November 24th and December 31st will have the option to order from our seasonal holiday menu. And again, we do have the option to add a link right here. If we wanted to link to that menu, we can do that there. Don't forget to check off the event styles if you do use event styles at your venue. For this purposes, we're just going to go with on-premise. We've got our auto response email where we can update the text that is sent to a guest after they're completing the form. But for our purposes, I think we're good to go. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to create this form. So there we go. Now we've got our holiday campaign 2023 lead form. However, now that we've created this form, we want to get this out to the masses. We want to send this form out to folks so that they can fill it out, request a holiday event at our venue. So how do we do that? Well, it's one of two options. The first is the Triple Seat hosted version of the lead form. So to access this, I just clicked the View Live Page button right here. And this is our actual lead form right here. Just like we created it with our custom branding, our seasonal decor up top. Now what we could do, we could take this URL right here. We can send this out in a mass email. We can post it on our social media page. We could even create a QR code that links to this URL, post it up on table tents or on posters in our venue. However you choose to communicate with your guests, really we just want to get them this URL. We'll bring them to this page here. Now the other option would be to embed that lead form on your website. Most venues probably familiar with embedding a lead form on their site. Basically what this means is we're going to take those fields. It's going to live directly on your venue's website. It's going to take on the branding of your website. It might look a little bit cleaner, look a little bit more cohesive with the rest of your brand and your venue's website. So to do that, I'm going to click on the Setup Codes button right here. Now these are the codes that your web team, your web developers, or those who manage your venue's website would need to embed the form directly on your website. I will note, if you do not have someone who manages the website for your venue, but you do still want to look into embedding it, Triple C does partner with Flight New Media. They'll add up to 3 forms to your website for a fee of $250. So if you're interested in that, just reach out to us at Triple C Support. We'll be happy to put you in touch with them. All right, folks. So I'm going to take a pause right here. Feel free to keep putting those questions in our Q&A box, but I want to make sure that we get caught up on those questions before we move on to the next portion of the webinar here. I'll take a quick little pause just to let those in the chat catch up with those Q&A questions and give you a time to put something in if there was a question you had about what we've been discussing so far. All right, let's keep going here. Don't hesitate to keep putting questions in there. We'll get those answered for you. But in the meantime, we're going to move on to the second portion of today's webinar. Now we're going to talk about how this information that we're going to collect through this lead form translates to other portions of CCC, other sections of the site. The first and the most obvious is going to be the leads. So let's go ahead and fill out this lead form. We're going to create a new lead here. So here's where we see our availability, letting guests know when we're hosting our holiday events. Also, this nature of event field, where we can say we're looking to host a happy hour. Now that I know the availability of this holiday event, I'm going to make sure that I'm going to select the date within that time range. And that additional information field that I referred to as well. So this is text. You have the ability to update when editing the lead form, really to ask anything you'd like. Just know that the information that's entered here is going to flow into the additional information field within the lead. So now that I've filled out the entirety of the lead form, we're going to submit. And now back in CCC on my dashboard, we've got that new lead right here. So when I go ahead and click on this new lead here, we see that it was submitted through the Holiday Campaign 2023 lead form. And then we see our lead source, once again, Holiday Campaign 2023. Now this lead source here is going to stay with the lead as we convert it to a contact or an event. So let's go ahead and convert this lead to an event. Now when we do, here we go, we've got that lead source, Holiday Campaign 2023. So even as an event, we know how we generated this lead and how we generated this business. And the reason that that's important, like I mentioned at the very top here, is for our reports. So let's take a look at our reports page. Now, obviously, you just saw me create this lead form and this first lead through that lead form. So we know there's not going to be a lot of data to report on just yet. However, I did host a similar series of events for Oktoberfest. So I got some great data there that we can show in this example for our reports here. We can talk a little bit about the data received through that lead form. Now, first and foremost, let's start with our lead details report. So I'm going to go ahead and click custom. We're going to create a custom report here. Now, what I want to see is all leads, regardless of their conversion status, that were collected using my Oktoberfest lead source. So I go ahead and click update. Here we go. I get to see all of the leads that were captured from that lead source, from that particular lead form associated with that lead source as well. We get some sort of high-end event information. Really, the important stuff is we get that those leads contact information here. If we want, we can customize it a little bit further. What I like to do, make sure that we're checking this opted into mass emails box. Can get rid of some of the information. Just to look at a bit more of a pared down report here. So now what I have is everyone who submitted a lead through this lead form, but is also opted in to receiving mass emails from me and my venue. So essentially what I have is a list here of email addresses that I can reach out to about future holiday events. about next year's Oktoberfest events. Some really great information here that we can then translate into future business. Whether or not these folks ended up booking an event with our venue, we know that they reached out to us and we know that they're willing to receive mass emails from us. So this is a great addition to your venue's mass email lists. Or you can even start a new one with folks who are looking to host holiday events with you. Maybe try to really capture them for future holidays. All right, so before we wrap up, I do want to take a look at one more report. This will be the end of our webinar here. Now, we saw we had a bunch of leads created through that lead source. Unfortunately, not all of them turn into an event. We know that that's how it is. We would love for them all to book an event with us, but it doesn't necessarily happen that way. But the ones that did, we're going to get some great information from their events. And we saw that that lead source followed them into their event. So we can still report upon events generated with that lead source. So we're going to go into an event details report. Once again, I'm going to click custom. I'm going to customize this report. Now I'm going to select a date and know that all of our Oktoberfest events were hosted in the month of October. And then right down here, I'm going to select my Oktoberfest lead source. And I can simply run this report. And now I have a list of all the events that were generated through that lead form. I also get a lot of their high-end and even granular financial information. We can see really how much money this lead source and this lead form have brought into our company, in addition to that really great contact information that we got. All right, folks. Well, I do appreciate you spending this time with us today. I really hope this information has been helpful to you and to your team. And I know there's a few different things that we covered. Rest assured, we're going to send out a video of this recording to everyone to the email address you used to register when you registered for the webinar. So you'll get this to refer to watch with your team or to send to folks internally who may want to see this information as well. We're going to leave the Q&A open for just a few more minutes, just for any final questions that you may have. Please feel free to put those in that Q&A. That being said, if you leave here and you do have something else you'd love to reach out about, we're happy to help. You can reach out to the Triple Seat support team by clicking the Help and Questions button, the top right corner of any page in Triple Seat. Okay, once again, thanks so much. We really appreciate you joining us. And yeah, hope you have a great rest of your day.